Hello, and welcome to Ozarks History. This is Vincent Anderson, and right now we are headed down a big long hill. We call it the Cotter Hill around here, so apparently we are going to go to Cotter, Arkansas. We're going down here by the river, and we'll chat just a few minutes, talk about some of the inspirations that have helped me out over the years to study Ozarks history. I got a funny story about Cotter. Well, funny remembrance. Growing up, my mom and dad would go to church revivals all over the Ozarks, northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. And as a little boy, one time I remember we came down to church, and we got too early to church. Of course, we get early to church. That's my dad's habit. And we didn't have anything to eat. We didn't go out to eat. So we went down to a little local grocery corner market at the bottom of the hill in Cotter, and walked in. And my dad ordered some bologna slices, and behind the meat counter they sliced the bologna off. Dad bought a loaf of white bread, and we sat in the car in the church parking lot. We ate bologna sandwiches. So every time I think of Cotter, I think of bologna. Well, there's a whole lot more to Cotter than bologna. And that's why we were headed down here. Are you ready? Let's go. Well, we've made it down to the Cotter Park in the Cotter Spring, overlooking the White River down here. And the reason I'm down here, I just want to share a couple books with you that has helped me out. And if you're into Ozarks history or studying the region of the White River or anything like that, just kind of give you a little heads up on the sources I've used throughout here. First of all, I would like to show you this book. It's called Steamboats and Ferries of the White River, A Heritage Revisited. It's by Duane, Huddleston, Sammie Cantrell Rose, and Pat Taylor Wood. It'll cost you about $30. It's printed by the University of Arkansas. It has pretty good detail about the Ozarks especially. Now, this region lacked decent transportation. Basically all we had here were mule trails over our county and military roads here. They were mule trails, and steamboats they were underwriting the way for economic development throughout the Ozarks through here, for that part even settling the region. Now, river transportation carried animal hides, cotton, rendered bear oil, very important, rendered bear oil down the river to market, and the river transported settlers up here, food staples, and manufactured goods, including manufacturing whiskey. And over the years, the Golden Age of Steamboat travel, it was a significant part in delivering the mail up and down the region, hauling freight, and then there were some fun times of excursion parties. Now, steamboats, ironically, brought about their own demise up through this region. They helped transport the materials to build the railroad, and when the railroad came in, the steamboats could not compete with all that was going on through here. Now, this book has about 125 black and white photographs, sketches, and maps illustrating the history of steamboating and keelboats in the White River from the early 1800s all the way through the Civil War to early 1900s. Now, this book is broken down in 3 parts. It has the history of keelboats and flatboats on the White River. A lot of time that's kind of overlooked, and it's necessary to take a look at this. That's part 1. Part 2 is the steamboats, really focusing on steamboats here. They've broken down into 4 categories: 1831 to 1860, 1861 to 65, 1866 to 1900, and then 1900 to about 1917. So they cover that area right there. And the 3rd part of the book covers the history of White River ferries. And so in the back of the book has some really interesting parts also. It lists the steamboats that plied up and down the river. They list the steamboats, so you can find out what steamboats landed where and went up and down the river. They have a list of ferries, like right up the, not even a mile up the river from here at the Cotter Spring is the MacB steamboat landing, but there was also the MacB ferry, all the way up Taney County, Swan Creek, going on down the river, like Van Winkle. They list them all. Then they have a couple pages that they list, 2 pages of at least the glossary of steamboat and ferry terms. So if you go through here and you find a term that kind of looks foreign to you, you just flip right back here and you can find the glossary. One of the best things I have found, especially after grad school, when I grab a book, the first thing I do, I grab the book and I go straight to the back and I look at the index. This index is pretty cotton picking good. It's a 13-page index. This is 8.5 by 11 size book, and so you got a 13-page index. You got a good index in your hands. Now this paper book back came out in 1998. Now about that time, my wife and I, we owned a bookstore in Mountain Home, Arkansas, and this book became a staple in our Ozark selection. And today it still holds its weight and its rights in the Ozark genre. Working in the library in the reference part, I have people coming in wanting to know about the White River, the Ozarks, steamboats. This is the #1 book you can go to. University of Arkansas Press, you can go to Amazon. They run at least around $30, but I will tell you what, it's a well spent $30. 2 more books I really want to mention quickly. It's called The Keelboat Age on Western Waters. It's by Mr. Leland, Dewitt, Baldwin. It came out in 1980 by University of Pittsburgh Press. And now I'll tell you what, this book does not cover about the White River, but if you want to know about keelboats that were running up and down here and the context, this is the book to grab. There's a few of them out on Amazon. If you cannot get them on Amazon, go to your library and bug the reference librarian for an interlibrary loan. This is the book to get. And hefty. Let's talk hefty here a moment. This book right here. This book will set you back about $40. Another $40 well spent. And so it's called Way's Packet Directory, 1848 to 1994, Passenger Steamboats, this is a long title, Passenger Steamboats of the Mississippi River System since the advent of photography in the mid-continent America. Now this was compiled by Frederick Way Jr. Like I said, it's $40. I believe it's published by the University of Ohio Press. Get a copy of this. This is my personal copy that I can I got this last year. I got an Amazon gift card. I got one of these. Now, Way's Packet contains almost 6,000 entries, and it directly includes a majority of combination of passenger and freight steamers. It includes the broader sense of the types of passenger carriers propelled by steam that plied the waters of the Mississippi River System. I said Mississippi River System. The White River is part of the Mississippi River System. If you go throughout the Ozarks, it talks about the Black River. I mean, it has the rivers listed in here and who plied those rivers. Every entry, most entry describes at least the rig, the class, the engine, the boiler, the shipyards where they were built, when they were built, the dimensions, the type of hull it was. Was it steel? Was it wood? The captains, the crew. Now here's the best part. I mean, everything breaks apart. It's Murphy's Law, of course. This also covers the disasters, the demise, or its conversion to something else, along with tidbits of historical interest to use. And I've used this to find what happened up and down the White River here, what happened in the Ozarks. And I'm just going to welcome the airplane coming on through here. But I want to tell you what, I want to thank you so much for sitting in here with me, covering these 3 books. I'm going to be using these books as a back reference along with the microfilm of newspapers, what happened throughout the Ozarks. I just kind of want to give you a heads up what we're going to be using. Okay, some of the things I would actually like to show you throughout our series as we walk through the White River area on this part of our Ozarks history is go through certain spots on the river that construction was taking place that you may not even realize took place. Right here on the river, there's some foundation stones on the other side. Those foundation stones were placed there in 1872. 1872, they decided to actually put in a wing dam and dam off the other part of the river on the other side of this little island. If you can see in behind me, there's a little island that starts there. Well, they were working a wing dam all the way across through here, and there's some foundation stones on the other side. That was 1872 they started doing that. That's 146 years ago. It's a long time ago. Also, they did it in 1872. They also worked on 1876, 1878, 1886 was the major wing dam put in. A lot of time and effort was put in right here. And that happens to be with one of the gentlemen that I did my thesis, graduate thesis on, Henry Sheldon Tabor, Captain Henry Sheldon Tabor of the Corps of Engineers down in Little Rock, Arkansas. A lot of time was spent in here. About 3 months of working on this area in 1886. That was the bulk put in right there. And so hopefully we can go up and down the river, look at certain spots, and I'll draw out the maps as we work our way on down through parts of the White River, and we'll be able to see what actually took place there. All right, I want to thank you very much for watching Ozarks History. If you liked this video and like to see more content like this, I'm going to ask a couple things. Go down to the bottom of the screen where it says subscribe and click subscribe. And every time we come out with a new video, you'll be automatically notified, and then you can bring it up on YouTube and you can watch it. Also at the bottom of the screen, you'll see Patreon. It says Ozarks. That is our Patreon website. If you would like to support Ozarks History or content like this, you can go down the bottom of the screen, click Patreon. It'll take you to our Patreon webpage, and you can support content like this on Ozarks History. The last thing I want to ask you to do is share this with others. Tell other people about it. If you think they may be interested in it, I would greatly appreciate it. I sucked in a gnat. Man, here's a gnat. So one of the things I'd like to also do throughout Ozarks history is come to certain locations, even on the White River here, and show things that took place a long time ago. There's an area down here about 126 years ago. That isn't even right. Thank you very much for watching this video. Sucked a gnat up my nose again.